Hi folks, Richard Pallaziol here from Weapons of Choice, and today I want to go through the basics of stage combat sword play. It's inevitable in any discipline that after we learn the basics we move on quickly. We want to learn the more interesting things, the tough combinations, the fun stuff, and slowly, the more time we have away from when we first learned the discipline, the more we let the basics kind of get away from us. And too many times I've seen on stage people who are very good fighters or people who've been taught by very good instructors look a little sloppy. The basics are starting to get away from them. And it's the one thing that can really make a fight look just good where it could have looked great, or makes a fight look poor where it could have at least been good. So, if you're a beginner, welcome, and if you're experienced, let's kick off a little bit of that rust, okay? Let's get to it. Okay, we're going to go through the basics using what I love to use, which are acronyms. And we're going to use drip blood. Kind of. But first, let's get to the most important one, drop your stance. The first part on drip. Drop your stance, lower your stance. Everyone learns it at the beginning. You bend at the knees, you drop way down, it makes a connection to the ground, and it looks much more like a fighter than it does if you keep your knees locked. And I know that after working out for a while, the legs get tired and sooner or later start to rise back up. A lot of actors keep the stance wide, but now it's an A-frame with locked knees, and it just doesn't look like you're really fighting. Drop the stance. I know that it hurts. Get the legs strong, because that's what differentiates between having a believable fight and having something which the audience really doesn't believe. They can't believe that you're really engaged in the fight when you don't make that strong connection to the earth and the movement stays low instead of coming up and down and straightening the legs, lowering the legs. Keep the legs bent. Drive forward, drive back. You're ready to move in any direction. R. Radiate your defenses. Don't just defend here, then here, then here. You're just making pictures. You're not creating the illusion of really defending. If the attack is going to come here, I know that the attack wants to go all the way to my center, so I start from the center and I radiate that block out to meet it. If the next attack is coming from my head, I don't just try to play beat the clock and hope that I get there before the incoming sword does. I come to the center, I protect the center first, and I radiate my block out to meet it. Then the next one on this side, I don't just drop the tip, I bring the tip down and then across because I'm radiating out. That feeling will look so much better. It'll look like there has a real purpose, and the audience can start to imagine the threat. Which brings us to I in drip. Imagine the threat, both on the receiver and on the sender. Really look at what you want the sword to go to. If I'm going to attack my partner here, send the energy there, imagine it there. No, here's a perfect example of perfectly useless swordplay. No imagination, there's no threat to anyone, the swords are just bashing away at each other without any threat.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Oh, where do I start? Yes, this is ballet, but we don't give them a pass for that. It's still storytelling, and the storytelling is of a fight. Oh, look at this. The swords are going everywhere except where there's a human being to try to hurt. This is truly sword play because the swords are fighting each other. The human beings have very little to do with it. They're all bashing away at this theoretical area in between the two combatants. The two combatants don't even need to be there.
Guys, this is the safest way to talk through a fight, is to leave the swords on the floor. Yeah, just use your hands.
Yes, it's true, there's wonderful things to be done in rehearsal by putting the swords away and just using your hands. But that's when you take advantage of the fact that you can really focus now on going towards the targets. Look at these guys, they're just going through useless motions. There's nothing connected to attack or defense. They're just flailing their hands in the air. It's just disgusting. And great, here we see the young corps of ballet learning the incorrect techniques and probably pass it on in future generations.
I don't think people
realise just how exhausting sword fights are. It's not just the impact on your arm, it's really physically strenuous.
After my first show, I was like,
Yeah.
like couldn't let go of my hand and it was shaking.
You find that you will sword fight and you'll get to the end of the sword fight and you literally have to open your fingers because you take so much strain and impact in your hand.
What? No, no, no! You're never supposed to have a death grip on the weapon, especially if it's a light one, but even if it's a heavy broadsword, you don't grab the thing and never let go. You're supposed to have a light hand throughout all of this. No wonder they're bashing away at each other. No wonder their hands hurt. Completely incorrect technique, which actually rather conveniently takes us to P in drip, point with the weapon. Don't just grab the weapon and bash. If I'm going to attack my partner here, I'm not just going to bash this way or bash that way. I'm going to reach out with the weapon so the blade is in line with my forearm, my finger is in line with that. I use that as a reference point. I imagine it as though I'm dabbing with a brush. I don't actually point with my finger, but I could because the weapon is in line. And this is not just for the lightweight weapons. If it's a mace, if it's a club, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm extending at the moment of impact. I'm not just keeping the death grip on it. That makes for very, very sloppy fighting. It makes for ugly chopping motions. And it also shortens up the distance between the two actors because all of a sudden the swords haven't reached their full potential. If I am really reaching out, then Skip can be another 3 feet away from me, and it actually looks more dangerous because we're staying away from the tips of the weapons. So point with the weapon and really try to reach. That'll affect the distance. Going right to blood, or, well, I'm going to fix that a little bit, to bled, a little easier to understand. Balance. Make sure that your torso and your head are above your hips. So don't let it get away from you unless you specifically want the look of really trying to reach so far in order to get to your opponent. But for the most of the time, maintain your balance. Keep the center of your body over one heel or another. Don't let your knee go beyond what's over your foot. Line. If you attack, the arm is straight, parallel to the ground. So is the blade. So it creates one nice line which is easily understood by the audience as being an attack. If you're going to bend, bend everything. Bend the elbow, bend at the shoulder, bend the wrist, have the weapon create broken lines, which means that you're on the defensive, as opposed to straight, elegant lines that the audience can follow all the way through the body. The legs can match it as well. We're back at the Royal Ballet again, and look at this. These guys know how to actually do stage combat. Nice lines. You can tell who's attacking, who's defending. Beautiful blocks. Nice targeting. So why is it for the show they're doing this schlock? This means nothing. No one attacking, no one defending. Ah! So, lines which tell story. Now let's see. Where were we on bled? Oh, that's right. The eyes. This one seems so easy, and yet it's the easy stuff that we forget, right? The audience follows the narrative by following where your eyes go. They'll lose track of the sword, but they won't lose track of where you're looking. So, very simply, if the threat is coming into you, see the threat and follow it with your eyes. If my partner is attacking me here, I'm going to look at that attack and track it with my eyes all the way to the spot where I'm going to block it. All the way there, that's where I'm going to look. In martial arts, we look generally here without trying to telegraph our moves. In stage combat, we do the opposite. We want to telegraph everything so the audience can follow the blow-by-blow account of the story. When I'm going to attack my partner, yes, I'll make a brief glance at the eyes, but then I'll look directly at the target that my character wants to hit. In other words, don't look at where your swords are going. Make your swords go to where you look. Distance. Yes, starting the fight and establishing correct distance is great. We do it at every class. We do it for every start of every exercise. But as soon as we start moving, that distance is going to change. We always step forward a little bit longer than when we take a step back. The backward steps are a little bit shorter. So whatever distance has been established between the two actors, with a little bit of moving back and forth, they're going to get closer and closer and closer. Always go back to try to stay away from the tip. If the person is coming at you with a weapon, don't let the tip go past you. Make sure that the tip is always in front of you. Not so that you have to reach out and block. You can still bend, but keep that tip right in front of you. Oh, now this is just sad. Romeo and Tybalt have gotten so close that Romeo is thrusting at Tybalt's shins and 2 feet away from the body. Their distance is so off. If we keep the tip out in front, establish massive distance between the two people. It's better to be further away than too close. Then we're always trying to reach the other partner. It's a much more exciting fight than to have the battle take place here. We're just, by doing this, we're telling the audience that no one has anything to fear about the tips because these guys are standing close, so the tip must not be all that lethal. If we get maximum distance and we're fighting for all we can get, trying to reach the other person, but staying 6-8 inches away, tells the audience that the tip is white hot and ready to kill. And then we have somewhere to go when the tip disappears. It must be because the other guy has been run through. Okay, folks, those are the basics. Until next time, stay safe and play safe. So what are they doing now? They're playing like kids in a schoolyard with sticks. Oh, a nice spin while the other actor does another spin. The other actor just has to wait. Sure, why not give Romeo a chance to spin? No storyline, no reason for the spin. Just, it's time to do it. Why not? God, this is crazy.